One of my signature themes is connectedness, and I experience it every day. I believe that everything happens for a reason and that we're all interconnected. We're all part of a bigger picture. My connectedness drives me to be involved with so many organizations in my community. Ultimately, I rely on my connectedness talents to help others.
Fun, enjoyable, amusing, whimsical, flamboyant, fun synonyms: amusement, diversion, enjoyment, a laugh, pleasure, boisterousness, horseplay, rough and tumble. F-U-N.
I'm PK along with Larry Kutzler and Reverend Shawn Morrison, the Executive Director of Good in the Hood, and we want to welcome you to Inspiring Your World.
Shawn, we're in a series where we're talking about relationships from a variety of aspects and how those relationships apply either to a marriage or a working relationship or a church relationship. I think it's very important that we unpack what relationship is all about. And today we're going to talk about fun and being connected. One of the aspects of how relationships work is a commitment. You know, without commitment, I don't know how you can have fun or stay connected. You know what I'm saying? There has to be something there that hitches you up with the other person.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we'll start with connected, because I think that is a really important of any healthy relationship. You need to be able to do things together. You know, it's not good to, you know, in any relationship, not have time with one another. And so a lot of people talk about quality versus quantity. I don't think they need to be mutually exclusive. I think it's both and, you know, and it's yes to both. We need quality time, but we need quantity too. And, you know, that doesn't mean we're not busy people. We are, but you have to have, whenever possible, certainly relational proximity, but it also really helps to have geographical proximity to any healthy relationship, to spend time together, to do things where there is a spiritual, an intellectual, a emotional, and in some cases where maybe a marriage, it's even a physical connection. You know, I think those things deepen a relationship, help it to be healthier, help it to be something that is alive and vibrant and fruitful, and that would lead to the other part, fun. You know, we'll talk about that in a moment, but that connection is key for any healthy relationship. I'll use marriage. We have maybe a marriage certificate. We can say we're legally married, but if we have no connection, we're not really living as a couple. It doesn't just speak of marriage. It could be any relationship. We need time and connection.
So you don't necessarily have to like the same things in order to stay connected, right? I mean, you can go outside of your comfort zone to another event or something that your partner wants to go do. I mean, is that correct? Or
well,
what?
Yeah, certainly that's a possibility of, you don't have to like the same things. In fact, to always like everything alike, you might actually find it lacking in any creativity. You might become, some would say, bored. I think that, you know, you have to care enough about the person that you care what they care for, even if you wouldn't naturally do so in your own. And you start to take on some tastes that you maybe found initially you didn't care for, and you maybe eventually adapt to them. But it's stretching yourself, and it's showing care, and it's not only the outcome of that destination, it's the process of getting there, that connection that makes the relationship healthier.
And I think a healthy connection always challenges us to try new things and to do new things, because otherwise, like you say, we stay stuck in the old patterns.
Stagnant happens, yeah.
Which also brings us then to the idea of fun. I mean, fun is something that we all like to do. Some of us are really strange things as fun, and others are, you know, they like to play checkers. That's fun.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by fun? How do you unpack that one?
Well, recreation. It's short, you know, it's really a word of saying recreation. We're recreating things all the time, and recreation helps recreate the healthiness of a relationship. We need to do things that are relaxing and enjoyable, and things that we find healthy pleasure in together. And so doing things, you know, that we mutually enjoy is a wonderful way to build relationship. A lot of mentoring happens around tasks. I'm not talking about relationships of mentoring necessarily, but why does it happen around task? Because there's something you're doing together where you're growing, you're learning, you're stretching. And any relationship where that's happening, it's going to be better because you're focused on something that's healthy.
Recently, I had some family in town, and we did some things I just normally don't do, but it was so fun that come Monday morning, this is over a weekend, Monday morning, I was so energized to go to work. You know, it was almost like I had a Sabbath of of rest, even though we did fun things. It does restore you in some ways.
For sure, yeah. Work that you have to do is exhausting. Work that you get to do is re-energizing, and it's like you get a second wind. Things that you enjoy, you don't get exhausted from them. You get tired, like you might feel energy has been expended, but it's good energy and it recreates itself. And I think when it's something you have no interest in or that you find almost distasteful, then it drains you in a bad way. And I think we're looking at this from a level of fun, like you're engaged, you're leaning in. I like to say from a sports level, you're not catching the ball on your heels, you're catching the ball on your toes. You're ready for the pass. You're ready to make a move, so to speak. And I think when you're in a relationship that's fun, you're on your toes in that relationship, so to speak. And I think that's something where there's energy that comes out, and people love being around others who have energy.
I think it's easy for us to understand what fun is when it comes to a couple having a date night and going to do something fun. But how does that relate, for example, in the workplace or in the ministry? I mean, you're doing tasks all day to either make money or to help people, but how does fun enter into something like that?
Yeah, good question. I think it would vary depending on the situation, but you have a common, perspective of what you are trying to achieve. And, a lot of times you're working, and you're having fun doing that work, but then you just do something that changes the game a little bit just to refocus everybody. And it could be something completely random, but it's something that you get to do together. And you find that maybe it's not such a serious situation. Maybe the team in some way does something that just is completely outside the box, and it's not about work. And what you find in those situations is all of a sudden you get to know the real person. They let down their professional guard, and it's a fun thing, and all of a sudden you no longer are dealing with them as a position, you're dealing with them as a person.
For more information about Reverend Shawn Morrison's organization, visit goodinthehood.org. Join us next time for Inspiring Your World.